Martin Sixsmith is a British author and radio-television presenter, primarily working for the BBC. He has also worked as an advisor to the Labour government and to the BBC television comedy series The Thick of It. Education: Sixsmith was born in Cheshire. He was educated at the Manchester Grammar School where he studied Russian to A-level, then at New College, Oxford, Harvard, the Sorbonne University in Paris, and in St. Petersburg, in Russia. He was a Slavics tutor at Harvard and wrote his postgraduate thesis about Russian poetry. Between 2002 and 2007 he studied psychology and applied psychology as a mature student at Birkbeck, University of London and at London Metropolitan University. Career and the writings: Sixsmith joined the BBC in 1980 where he worked as a foreign correspondent, most notably reporting from Moscow during the end of the Cold War. He also reported from Poland during the Solidarity Uprising and was the BBC's Washington correspondent during the election and first presidency of Bill Clinton. He was based in Russia for 5 years, the US for 4, Brussels for 4 and Poland for 3. Sixsmith left the BBC in 1997 to work for the newly elected government of Tony Blair. He became Director of Communications, working first with Harriet Harman and Frank Field, then with Alistair Darling. His next position was as a director of GEC plc, where he oversaw the rebranding of the company as Marconi plc. In December 2001, he returned to the civil service to join the Department for Transport, Local Government and the Regions as Director of Communications in time to become embroiled in the second act of the scandal over Joe Moore. Moore was special advisor to the Transport Secretary Stephen Byers and had been the subject of much public condemnation for suggesting that a controversial announcement should be buried during the media coverage of the September 11, 2001 attacks. Sixsmith incurred the displeasure of Downing Street when his email advising Byers and Moore not to bury more bad news was leaked to the press. Number 10 attempted to resign him, but had later to issue an apology and pay him compensation. Sixsmith was widely expected to write a memoir or autobiography in the wake of his civil service departure, but instead produced a novel about near-future politics called Spin which was published in 2004. His second novel, I Heard Lenin Laugh, was published in 2005. In 2006 he was commissioned by BBC Radio 4 to present a series of programs on Russian poetry, literature and art. In 2007 he wrote The Litvinenko File, an examination of the feud between the Kremlin and Russia's copyright migrant copyright oligarchs. In 2008 Sixsmith worked on 2 BBC documentaries exploring the legacy of the KGB in today's Russia and also presented a BBC documentary, The Snowy Streets of St. Petersburg, about artists and writers who fled the former Eastern Bloc. In 2009 he wrote The Lost Child of Philomena Lee, about the forcible separation of a mother and child by the nuns of an Irish convent during the 1950s, and the subsequent attempts of the mother and child to contact one another. In 2010 Sixsmith wrote Putin's Oil, about Russia's energy wars and their consequences for Moscow and the world. In 2011, he presented Russia, the Wild East, a 50-part history of Russia for BBC Radio 4. His book Russia, A 1000-Year Chronicle of the Wild East was published by Random House. He worked as an advisor to the BBC political sitcom The Thick of It, and the Oscar-nominated film, In the Loop. In 2013, The Lost Child of Philomena Lee was adapted into the film Philomena, directed by Stephen Frears, starring Dame Judi Dench and Steve Coogan, and written by Coogan and Jeff Pope. It was nominated for 4 Oscars. In 2014 Sixsmith presented a 25-part BBC Radio 4 series about the history of psychology and psychiatry, In Search of Ourselves. In 2015 he made a BBC television documentary, Ireland's Lost Babies, in which he travelled to the USA to investigate the Irish Catholic Church's role in an adoption trade which saw thousands of illegitimate children taken from their mothers and sent abroad. Personal life: Martin Sixsmith has 4 children and currently resides in London. He is a Liverpool FC fan and attended the Rome, Brussels, Istanbul and Athens finals of the European Champions League/European Cup, in which Liverpool appeared. References: These unfortunate events. A Euro report of the House of Commons Select Committee on Public Administration. Sixsmith, Martin. The Catholic Church sold my child. The Guardian. Russia, the Wild East. Accessed August 12, 2011. Ireland's Lost Babies, a devastatingly powerful piece of work that will move you to tears one moment and blood-boiling outrage the next. Independent EA. Retrieved September 15, 2015. External links: Martin Sixsmith at the Internet Movie Database, http, books.guardian.co. Work General Fiction 01807745, HTML, http, www.guardian.co. 200628/television books, http, books.guardian.co. Work history /01815364, HTML, http, www.morningstaronline.co. Work contentful /32105, http, Arts Guardian Co-work stories /01820,543, HTML, http, www.panmacmillan.com. Display page ASP. Page title equals CPS %20 request %20 extradition %20 of %20 former %20 KGB %20 officer, http, www.telegraph.co. Work main JHTML. XML equals 200,703/628 XML, http, www.telegraph.co. Work main JHTML. XML equals 200,703/628 XML, http, www.continuebooks.com. detail ASPX. Book id equals 134,278 and subject id equals 1023 and subject to id equals 922, http, www.independent.co. Acme Funny Business. Henry Normal explains why his new project is no joke. 20211224 HTML.